Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our October 2018 monthly webinar. Thank you all for joining us. We're thrilled to present for the first time in our webinar series a mentor, scholar, and friend of the program who we consider something of a madrina for us, Dr. Laura Rendón. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Dr. Laura Rendón. Dr. Rendón earned a PhD in Higher Education Administration from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. She holds a Master in Arts in Counseling and Guidance and Psychology from Texas A&M University, Kingsville. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in English and Journalism from the University of Houston and holds an Associate of Arts degree from San Antonio College. Rendón also attended Laredo Community College. Dr. Rendón is Professor of Higher Education in the College of Education and Human Development at the University of Texas, San Antonio. She is also co-director of the Center for Research and Policy in Education. From 2005 to 2009, Rendón served as professor and chair in the Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Studies at Iowa State University College of Human Sciences. As a research specialist on college preparation, persistence, and graduation of low-income first-generation students, Rendón is also recognized as a thought leader in the field of contemplative education. She has been a keynote speaker at conferences such as Gear Up, National Conference on Race and Ethnicity, National Association of College Admissions Counselors, International Conference on the First Year College Experience, and International Conference on Research on Service Learning, among others. A native of Laredo, Texas, Rendón's passion is assisting students who, like her, grew up in poverty with hopes and dreams but not knowing how to realize them. Rendón is credited with developing the theory of validation, which colleges and researchers have employed as a framework for working with and affirming low-income students. She is an active scholar whose research has been published in key education research journals. And I am going to turn it over to Dr. Rendón now, who will be speaking to us today about el arrebato, the struggle, empowerment, and the path to conocimiento.
Okay, buenas tardes. Hola, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I think Lydia is putting up the slides that I will be using, so you can follow along, and I'm sure they'll be available online as well. It's always a pleasure to connect with Catch the Next. I've attended your summer conferences and have spoken to so many of you, and just super impressed with your work and all that you do for our students. So I want to begin by thanking you for the work that you do, and I know it makes such a difference in the lives of students who have no other people to turn to. You're their hope, you're their inspiration, and I'm sure the students inspire you as well. So today is kind of a different talk than what I normally talk about. This is not really a theoretical talk, but it's really about us. It's about what we struggle with, our sense of purpose, why we do what we do. And the fact that you work so much with low-income first-generation students really says a lot about you. It really says you're among the most caring individuals in higher education. Because oftentimes these students are met with faculty that marginalize them, that discriminate against them, and these students are among the most vulnerable because there's so many deficit narratives about these students that are racialized in terms of who can succeed and who can't. And of course, it's people like you and me that most think, we're not going to make it, we don't have the talents, etc. So thank you for the work that you do. This is very, very noble work. It's work that speaks to our hearts as well as to our minds. And at the same time, I know that you are working within the confines of higher education. And very recently, I come to talk to graduate students and other educators, and they sometimes come to me and say, can you help me? I'm working in a toxic environment. I'm working in an environment where I feel marginalized. I'm not sure what to do. I feel depressed, and so they want to talk about these issues because higher ed doesn't really make a space for these issues. So, like today, we're making the space to, even though we're not going to change the world in 40 minutes today, we can at least begin a dialogue and a very important discussion that, along with everything that we do in terms of academics, which is extremely important, it's also important to work on self-care. It's also important to work on our own healing, our own sense of purpose, our ability to love, to give and to receive love, our ability to work with the most vulnerable amongst us. So let's begin by just relaxing and take a deep breath. Take another breath. And one more breath. So this is your time. This is our time. This one's for you. Okay. This is your time for self-healing and self-care, if only just momentarily. At the same time, I want you to know that even though I've had a lot of training in contemplative education, I don't have all the answers. And in fact, I struggle for the answers myself. I have acquired, as a result of my training, I believe, more wisdom than I had when I was in my 30s and 40s, certainly. But that doesn't mean that I don't have more to learn. And I'm reminded of a quote by feminist theorist Gloria Anzaldúa, who says, "Voyager, there are no bridges. One builds them as one walks." So sometimes the answers are found as we walk the path. Sometimes the answers aren't going to come to us when we want them, and we have to practice accepting what we're given. And so I want you to know that I'm like all of you. I walk the path of seeking answers, of trying to be a better person, trying to get a better sense of centeredness, trying to do the best that I can to act not just as an academic, but as a human being. And so I've called my talk El Arrebato, which is Gloria Anzaldúa's term, the struggle. And it's through the Arrebato, what I want to pose to you today is that as we struggle with sexism and discrimination, and we hear so many things that are going on in this very, very chaotic world right now that are shaking us up, that these experiences, as traumatic as they are, also offer lessons for us to grow and to get into what Gloria Anzaldúa calls Conocimiento. And she says that we access Conocimiento via creative arts, via inner work, such as writing and art and dancing and healing and teaching and meditation practices and spiritual activism. I consider what you do with Catch the Next a form of spiritual activism. Again, very noble work. And all of you are spiritual warriors that are out there in the trenches helping the most vulnerable amongst us. So God bless you for everything that you do. But we're caught in not only academic arrebatos, but also personal ones in our homes and just in life in general. And so Gloria Anzaldúa poses 7 stages of conocimiento. The first stage is, of course, the arrebato itself, the struggle. All of a sudden, we have a loss of foundation. It's like, oh my God, something's not right. Our bodies get tense. We might cry. We might yell. I mean, we might get depressed. It's some arrebatos are mild and others are really strong. Uh, and the next stage is what she calls the stage of nepantla. And nepantla is a word that means that you're in a liminal space. And liminal is just a fancy word for being in an in-between space. Ni aquí ni allá, neither here nor there. For example, in the case of a first-generation college student, when she or he steps foot into the new world of higher education, they're in a new world, but yet they're connected to their old world. So they're in a state of nepantla. They're like, okay, I'm here and I'm there, and y también ni aquí ni allá. And so they're trying to figure out, the new world of higher ed, but at the same time stay connected with their old world of where they grew up and their family, etc. The third stage that Gloria Anzaldúa poses after the arrebato and the liminality is a stage of despair. That we're like, oh, what do I do? What's happening to me? What do I do now? The fourth stage she calls a call to action, where then we say, okay, you know what? I'm here. This has happened to me. It doesn't feel good, but I feel like I need to do something and to move forward with my life. And so that's the call to action. The fifth stage is to create a pattern that speaks to your reality. So you're going to script a new story. Going back to the example of the first gen student, and there are many, I'm just giving you that as an example. The new story might be, after a semester, that say, okay, I may not be able to participate as much with my family, but I'm now a really strong college student, and I'm going to find ways to connect with them that are going to be a little different, but I'm still going to connect, but I'm going to do it in a new way. So now you're casting, a new story, scripting your new story. Stage 6 is to test that new story in the world. So you put it in action, and as you put it in action, you're really testing it out. And sometimes what we decide to do backfires, but sometimes, hey, it worked. And if it backfires, you've got to go back and rescript. But if it works, then you're saying, okay, I can move forward now. And so then the next stage is that stage of transformation, where now you're able to have a little bit more wisdom. You say, oh, okay, I've been through this path before. I know how to do this. And if that happens again to you, say, okay, I've learned now. And so you're now kind of you've made a shift of a new aspect of you that perhaps you didn't know was there. But then it doesn't end there, unfortunately, because arrebatos will continue in our lives. The Buddhists say that there's one common thing in life, and that's suffering. Life can be very, very difficult. Some of that suffering is mild, but other kinds of suffering are pretty intense and can shake us up quite a bit. So those are the 7 stages of conocimiento that Gloria Anzaldúa poses. So I want you to think right now, just give you a few seconds here. What is your own arrebato? What are you struggling with right now? Now, let's say you have 2 or 3, just focus on one for right now. Maybe the one that is really getting at you, And what feelings come up for you as you are, engaging with this struggle? What is it doing to your body? What are you losing sleep? Are you upset? Are you frustrated? Uh, let's just take a few seconds right now and just focus on your one arrebato and the feelings that come with that struggle. As I think of my own arrebato, I'm thinking of my sister Elva, who is in a nursing home right now in Laredo. So she's turned 80 in April. And I told my mom that I would take care of her. My mom was afraid to die because who would take care of Elva? Elva, Elva didn't finish high school. My mother took her out of the 7th grade because, we were kids and she couldn't afford daycare. So Elva was the one that made the sacrifice to take care of us. And so she never finished. High school and didn't go to college. Uh, so it's been one thing or another with Elva. More recently, problems with her kidneys, and can't walk anymore. And so here I am in San Antonio. She's in Laredo, and I struggle with that. But if I'm not here, I can't work, and then I can't pay for her caretaker that I have so that she has someone there at the nursing home and she doesn't feel alone and she doesn't feel abandoned. So this has been a tough one, for me. Last year around this time, I had another arrebato, a personal one, and I was supposed to actually go to Colorado, and there was a consortium of Latino educators who invited me to do a whole workshop on precisely this topic that I'm doing today. And I had to cancel at the last minute because I had a rash on my leg, and I went to the emergency room several times, and they misdiagnosed it as a bacterial infection. At one point, I thought that I had one of those antibiotic resistant bacteria. And as it turned out, my primary care doctor said, you need to be hospitalized. And so I was in the hospital for 5 days, and they did an ultrasound of my leg. And what I really had was blood clots. So I had DVT that I'm being treated for. So, if had I gone to Colorado, that clot might have reached my lungs or my heart, and that might have been it. So I was not expecting that, but that in itself was a pretty, serious, arrebato for me. So these arrebatos, these struggles, are our own moments of vulnerability. Something is lost, something is like, shaking us up. And I have a list there of different kinds of struggles that you would likely recognize from, the loss of a loved one, parent, a son, a daughter, whoever. That's a very, very deep, deep hurt, or being diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, the loss of a job, sexual assault or abuse. There's so many of them. Um, And so they include the loss of relationships. And, these are things that are part of our lives. Yes, we're academics, but we're also human beings. And so the struggles come both in and outside of the academy. So when we lose a relationship, sometimes we leave and sometimes we're left behind. And I've learned, I've been in that situation, in both situations myself, and it's easier to leave than to be left behind. But there's still a hurt there, certainly. Um, so again, these are also uh, not only moments of vulnerability, but also moments that if we work through them, if we approach them with a sense of, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to work this through, I'm going to come out stronger, then we can get to that stage of transformation that Gloria Anzaldúa talks about. And the more that we have these struggles and work through them, the stronger that we're going to become. Now, there are some things that happen to us that are just so horrible, horrible beyond belief. Um, Unspeakable horrors that should never happen, but they do. And I've learned that during those times, we have a choice. We can fall into despair and fall apart and just say, I, I'm never going to be able to get through this. This is horrible. Or we can become a dynamic, potent survivor, a warrior who says, no, this is not going to get to me. I'm going to find a way to work through this. I am going to move forward, and this is not going to beat me. Um, so those are the choices that we have. We cannot avoid vulnerability. We cannot avoid suffering, I hate to tell you. We cannot avoid problems in our lives. They will be there. So the issue is, how are we going to deal with these issues, given that they're going to be there and we don't want them there, nobody does. But how are we gonna work through these issues? And as I was thinking about this particular point of facing a deep struggle, I came across the stories of two people who went through some horrible, horrible struggles. One is the most recent Nobel Prize winner, a young woman, 23 years old, Nadia Murad. You might want to look her up. She is an Iraqi woman who became a sex slave for the Islamic State. Um, I don't know that I can fathom what that was like, or that any of us can. But I am sure that it caused intense suffering even today. But now Nadia is working to bring Islamic State members to justice for war crimes and genocide against the Yazidi people. And there is a new film that I really want to see. I haven't been able to access it. I think it was at the Sundance Film Festival just recently. It's called On Her Shoulders. And she also has a book. And I have a YouTube a link there that you can um, see a little bit more about that film. But again, here is Nadia experiencing the most horrible, horrible situation. And yet becomes transformed and yet rises above this horrific suffering in her life. Very similar in terms of suffering is another young woman. In fact, Nadia and Malala Yousafzai, who you probably know, a Pakistani woman who was a teenager, was shot in the head simply for advocating that women should have an education. She survived and was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 at the age of 17. She's the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winner, and the second youngest is Nadia Murad. Despite the fact that she was almost killed, her advocacy continues. She was not silenced. So those are two examples. But then before you, you have many other examples. You have the example of the low-income first-generation students that you work with every day. They too are examples of strength and courage and resilience. They were likely told, you'll never make it. They were likely experiencing poverty and all of its related ills. They might have been the victims of abuse. They might have come from broken homes. But yet, they are in college. Yet, they've decided to become role models for other students who, like them, have hopes and dreams. And so I want you to know that even though we will experience suffering, we can have some tools to help us to rise above the suffering and to become stronger and to be spiritual warriors that advance humanity. And that's really what all of you do. So one of my mentors who actually wrote the foreword to my book, Senti Pensante Pedagogy, is Mark Nepo, and I highly recommend his work. In his book, Endless Practice, Mark says that when we work through our most difficult times, we can come out stronger. And during our struggle, we discover that we are given new teachings, new tools, gifts, and growth processes that can result in our own personal growth, in our own transformation, in our own empowerment. So there is hope despite the suffering that we will experience. There is hope. So let me say a little bit more about healing and self-care. And I have a list of strategies that I offer as tools to help you in your own quest to take care of yourself. Because I have to remind myself too, I'm always go, and you know we're always telling people that we've got so much work to do. It's almost like if you're asked, how are you today? How many of us say, oh, I feel so great today. You know, I had time to do everything I wanted to do. And you know, my body feels great. You know, and I'm sure some of you are laughing back there, but you know, we don't say that. I mean, they say, oh, you know, I'm tired. You know, it's really, you know, I wish I had more time. Because we get the grant, but that's not enough. You got to get another grant and then another grant. You have a project and another project. You have a trip and another trip. I mean, it's on and on and on. But where is our self-care? Where is attention to us? And so I have a list there of some healing and self-care strategies. One of them is to stay connected to the original impulse that brought you to engage your work. Why do you do what you do? Stay focused on that because that's really, really important. That's really your sense of purpose. You have a sense of purpose if you're in this project. What is that impulse that brought you to do what you do? Sometimes we need a support network, others that we can have lunch with or spend the weekend with or whatever, people who are your friends, your support group, very important. If you have your own spirituality, I would say embrace that. Take time, even if you don't, take time for reflection, for deep thinking and attention to your overall well-being. I would also say learn about the work of our ancestors. What were their teachings? So many of us are fighters and we want to raise our voices and we're in attack mode and all of that, and I can see why you would have the anger. But I have to believe that our ancestors also wanted us to focus on healing and of love for each other and of having community and working as good, empathetic, compassionate human beings. Incorporate spiritual and self-help materials into your weekly readings, like Mark Nepo's work and the work of Gloria Anzaldúa, the work of Wayne Muller. Those are, teachings that I have that help me out in my daily life. Develop a contemplative practice of your own, whether it be meditation, whether it be writing poetry, whether it be taking walks or hiking, something that gets you deeper into who you are and what you care about. You might go on a self-care retreat or a spiritual journey once a year. Set aside time for rest, replenishment, and being with your loved ones. Get a massage. Take that vacation. Find a mentor, somebody who's going to be there, your validating agent. Understand that it's okay to say no. As Angela Sarian told me, honor your limitations. Honor your limitations. We cannot be everywhere all the time. We can only do so much. Because if we just keep pushing ourselves, the ultimate price, I hate to tell you, is death. So if we get sick, if we can't function, and that will happen, your body gives you messages, stop, stop, stop. If you don't listen, like, that message I got last year with my blood clots, it was like, hey, you won't listen to this? Well, now try this. Your body will stop you. And shape your legacy. It's not too early, some of you are really young, to think about how you wish to be remembered. When all is said and done, what are people going to say about you? How do you wish to be remembered? And let me move on now to some resistance strategies, because so many of you are dealing with struggles, just in the academy and elsewhere, discrimination, the racism, the toxic environments. So it begins with you. Be your authentic self. Stay true to your beliefs and your values. You know who you are, and no one can take that away from you. Don't take the very difficult challenges on by yourself. Create a network of people that will engage in that resistance with you. It's too much for one individual to take. It's way too much. Some people have told me about connecting with a powerful person on campus. I'm not going to read through all of these because I want to leave some time for Q&A. So let me skip to understand that there is a reason that people behave in negative ways. If somebody is being really bad with you, and sometimes that happens to me, and I have to remember, something must have happened to this person early on in life to be behaving this way. This isn't about me, it's about this person. So what I do is I try to send them light and compassion. It's hard, I know, but nobody behaves in an evil way without a reason. Establish your path with integrity. with authenticity and compassion. Walk the path of love, not hate. And view every life experience as your opportunity to grow. There is a blessing way that Angeles Arian, one of my other mentors, developed. And she said, every day we need to do three things. We would get up in the morning. One is to set a sacred intention. What is your intention for today? The second one is to give gratitude. Say thank you. Thank you for another day of life. Thank you for the opportunity to work with these students. Thank you for the gifts that I've developed. You helped me to develop so that I'm able to do this work. And thirdly, take a life affirming action every day. It can be something little, like when I travel, I, always try to leave a good tip to the people that clean the room. So I always think, these workers often, nobody pays attention to them. It's like nobody cares. They're just there cleaning. It's just a gift that you put out there. It's anonymous, but it's a powerful gift. So you need to think about what are some kinds of actions that you might take every day. And as we become transformed, as we gain more empowerment and more wisdom, know that we have to walk the world with responsibility. As we gain more conocimiento and more enlightenment, one of those responsibilities is to remain compassionate, loving, and authentic, to take care of our body with good nourishment, with exercise, to remain unattached to the outcome. We can't control everything. Everything happens for a reason. To not abuse our power, and to know that the other side of power is gentleness and vulnerability. To avoid making assumptions. That's one of the things that Don Miguel Ruiz says in the Four Agreements. Don't make assumptions. I know it's hard, but he's right. Oftentimes the assumptions are wrong. Work toward equity, service, and social justice. I know all of you do that. Practice gratitude and generosity, and develop your own contemplative practice. So I want to end with what is called a loving kindness meditation. It's an honor to speak with all of you, and I want to hear some of your thoughts. But before I do, I'd like for you to just get comfortable as you're sitting in your chair. Take a deep breath. We've gone through a lot here. Another breath. These breaths help to soften our hearts. And if you can, close your eyes and see if you can recall feelings of love and kindness in your life. When someone's been very loving and kind. But even if you can't, just stay with this spaciousness. And so I end with this loving kindness meditation from my heart to you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. Que seas feliz. Que siempre tengas buena salud. Que tengas mucha felicidad. Que tengas paz. Thank you for joining me. Lydia?
Thank you. Thank you above all. So I want to give everyone the opportunity to speak to Dr. Rendon. And I know she wants to hear from all of you as well. So if anyone has a question, you can use the hand raise feature and I will unmute you so that you can speak directly to Dr. Rendon. Or you can also type your question to me. Okay, we have a question from Dr. Chavez. Go ahead, Dr. Chavez.
Hello, Dr. Rendon. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. For the people that are on the call, you know, many of them are not aware, many of them are new, and some are not aware of the relationship that you've had with our organization over the years. You have been a true inspiration to us. You have been a wonderful mentor, and we feel very, very blessed to have you in our familia. We definitely appreciate your thinking in the theoretical frameworks that you have implemented in the past. Obviously, in our program, we try to incorporate validation theory in our classrooms. We try to use literature reflective of the demographics of the classroom so that the students see that their culture and traditions are validated. But of course, these days, many of our students are experiencing a lot of hate. They're experiencing, yes, microaggressions sometimes, other times very overt language by people with regards to particular groups. Even in the media at the highest level of government, we hear a lot of words that devalue who we are as a community. How do you suggest that we address these sentiments? You know, we appreciate your comments with regards to you seeing us as a spiritual warriors. We have never been called that as an organization, and we take that adjective with much love and appreciation. But how should we instill some of that warrior spirit in our students without becoming overly political, you know, given our limitations in terms of some subjects? Or you know, as a nonprofit, you know, trying to walk a fine line, you know, between, you know, religion and spirituality and just politics in general. So I wonder if you have any thoughts on go deeper with the students and validate them even, you know, farther to keep them encouraged and not depressed, and to keep them, you know, striving to succeed.
Yeah, very good questions. And hi, Marta. It's a pleasure to join you. And of course, you know how highly I think of you and the work that all of you do. It's just an honor to be a part of the work.
Thank you.
So yes, I think one of the things that can be done, and I think you're doing this already, is to instill in these students constantly this sense that they're really good, that they're bright, that they can be successful, that whatever anybody has told them in the past to invalidate them, throw all of that in the trash can, and to instill in them this sense of confidence, because some of them have perhaps lost it or are not sure of themselves. But I think that really every first generation student should be in a program like yours, because these are the students that will be, they're not going to be weak students, they're going to be strong because they have the love around them, they have the inspiration around them. You're building their competencies, not just academic development, but also social and emotional. And, when I go and, I see these students, they're my inspiration because I see the transformation in them. They're beginning to believe in themselves. They're young. They've got a lot to learn. And I'm certainly not the person that I was when I was 25 years old. But this will, this is going to take a little bit of time for them. But if they're surrounded by people like you at Catch the Next, if they have the validation, if they have this constant messaging that they're capable, that they're strong students, you're there for them, and help them build their own validating communities, their own peer validation, their own ways of helping each other, so that they have each other's backs. It's a tough world out there. I know. Even for us that are more, senior, it's a tough world out there. But I think that's going to be important. The second thing, if you want to be even more intentional about it, is to build in your program a space for discussion of these kinds of issues. Kind of what we're doing right now, not only for students, but for faculty and staff. A dedicated space where people, even once a month or even twice a year, would say, this is our time and this is what we're going to focus on. We don't make enough time for this, but it's super important. And just have it be a part of the work that you do, your own staff development.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And we have a comment from Diane Lerma in San Antonio who says, yes. She says, thank you for sharing your wisdom, love, and blessings to you, Dr. Rendón.
Love right back. Thank you, Diana.
And I had one question about, I appreciated everything that you said. We were speaking before about how necessary this is, this talk is, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us so that we can have this space and, kind of have this introduction to being intentional about building spaces like this. One of the issues that I face, I feel like with self-care and with taking time is a little bit of a sense of guilt. That I know that there's a stack of papers to grade. I know that there are 100 emails to answer. I know that if it doesn't get done, that I'm accountable to others in the work that I do. And so I tend to feel guilty for taking time for myself. So I wonder if you have any suggestions for how to overcome that.
Well, there's something that I say to myself almost every day, and that is everything is important. So if you have a list of 10 things and all of them are equally important, no matter what you pick from that 10, you did something important. Because you can't do everything at once. It's just impossible, So I would say that, you need to know that if you can only do what's humanly possible. And I'm sure what you do every day, if someone was to see what you do, they would say, that's more than enough. That's more than enough. And so, this guilt, I think, comes from, some socialization that we've had that, you have to do it all. But I think that's a myth that we need to break through. We can't do it all. It's not humanly possible. Even legislators, they have aides, they have people to help them because they can't do it all. None of us can. None of us can. So everything is important. Whatever you pick to do that day, you're doing important things. It's enough.
Thank you. Yeah, no, and I think that the importance of validating that as well, something that we probably all need to hear. We have another comment and question from Alejandra Polchik, who's here in Austin with us. Alejandra, I've unmuted your mic. I think you can speak now.
Oh, well, I wrote the comment on the section of questions and answers, and I just wanted to say that I love this session so much. It was like una inyección de energía positiva y sobre todo de esperanza. Es muy revitalizante. Like that's what we need. We need to hold on hope. And there's something that I would like to have Dr. Rendón as a motivational speaker for our students, and I would like to see if it's possible to contact her for something like that. We would like to have this session on at the beginning of the spring semester, but think about it, Doctora Rendón, mucho amor y namaste.
Namaste, Lakesh. I'm another you. Yes, thank you, Alejandra, and your words mean a great deal. Thank you.
Gracias a usted.
And we have another comment from Jamie Miranda. Let me see if Jamie has audio. I don't think she has audio. I'll just read her comment. She says, "Thank you so much for your suggestions and guidance. My family has had a very rough week, and listening to you today helped immensely." Jamie.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm glad to be helpful, and stay strong.
Thank you. So I believe that's all of the questions and comments that we have at this time. And again, just cannot say enough, express enough gratitude to you for this. It's clearly so needed by so many of us. So thank you again for sharing your time, Dr. Rendón.
My pleasure, Lydia, and just know I think the world of all of you, and it's an honor to be with you this afternoon. Good luck.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Gracias.